At her company's annual gala, my wife publicly humiliated me in front of her CEO and colleagues just to impress them. So I silently stood up, walked out without a word, and the chain of events that followed left her totally speechless. I'm a 34-year-old man, an ordinary guy who's been doing IT support for the past 8 years. It's not glamorous, but it covers the bills. I met my wife, Sarah, who's 32, in college. Back then, I was aiming for something more. My professors even said I had a real talent for architectural design. But as they say, life happens. Sarah was a driven marketing student, always talking about climbing the corporate ladder. After graduation, she landed an entry-level job at BlackRock Market, one of those chic firms with exposed brick and kombucha. I took a temporary IT position to support us while she got her career going. Somehow, temporary turned into 8 years. I wasn't complaining then. I genuinely believed we were a team. She'd often tell me, "Once I become senior account manager, we can focus on your career goals." But that promotion came, and then the next, and my dreams somehow kept getting pushed to maybe next year. I was earning a decent income, but nothing compared to her earnings once she started advancing, and she never let me forget it. Our apartment was filled with her choices. My gaming PC was relegated to a tiny corner of the spare bedroom she called her home office, though she rarely used it. When I tried to hang some of my old college architectural sketches, she claimed they didn't match our aesthetic and replaced them with generic abstract art from an expensive boutique. So, there I was, adjusting my tie for the 5th time in our bathroom mirror, preparing for Sarah's annual office party. This wasn't just any party, it was the first since her promotion to Director of Client Relations. My stomach was churning. These corporate events always made me feel out of place. "Mike, are you seriously still getting ready?" she called from the bedroom, that subtle sharpness in her voice making me feel tiny. "We can't be late. Jordan Billings will be there. He's the CEO, remember? I've told you 1,000 times." "Almost done," I replied, smoothing down my new suit, the one I spent $800 on just to avoid that look she always gave me when I wore my old one, that "my husband is such a project" look she'd shoot to her friends when she thought I wasn't noticing. The entire drive there, she kept instructing me as if I were a child. "Remember to mention your project management certifications if anyone asks what you do. And please, try to be more assertive than last time. You just stood in the corner like a statue." Each suggestion felt like a series of small, painful paper cuts. "And don't bring up that Star Wars stuff you're always talking about. Nobody cares about your theories on whatever those wizard people are called." "Jedi," I corrected automatically, instantly regretting it when I saw her roll her eyes. "Whatever, just try to seem interested in marketing for once." I just nodded and promised to make her proud, as always. But inside, something was already shifting. I was weary, so incredibly weary of being the secondary character in the Sarah show. The event space was in a luxurious downtown hotel, all glass and modern art, filled with people who looked like they'd never eaten fast food. I recognized a few faces from previous events, but mostly felt like a complete stranger, as if I were in costume for a play I'd never auditioned for. Sarah quickly spotted her colleagues and pulled me along, her hand gripping my elbow so tightly I thought it might bruise. "There's Kevin's group from marketing," she whispered. "Let me do most of the talking. Just smile and nod." Things started out fine. I smiled when expected, chuckled at inside jokes I didn't understand, and kept her sparkling water glass full. Then her boss, Ryan, approached with Jordan Billings, the CEO, and I could literally feel Sarah's nails dig deeper into my arm. "Your quarterly numbers were exceptional," Jordan told Sarah. "We need more of that killer instinct in the company. The way you handled the Miller account, brilliant." She beamed as if she'd just received $1 million. "Thank you, sir. I believe women need to push boundaries in this industry. We can't let the old boys club hold us back," she added, incorporating that feminist angle she always used around her bosses, even though at home she'd make me kill spiders and take out the trash because those were man jobs. Then the conversation shifted to a rock climbing retreat the company had organized. Several executives had participated, including Sarah. "Your wife was fearless on that cliff face," Ryan remarked to me. "What about you? Do you share her adventurous spirit?" Before I could even answer, Sarah let out that fake laugh she always used to impress someone. Mike? Oh God, he gets vertigo standing on a stepladder. I'm definitely the risk taker in our marriage. He's more of a support person. A few chuckles rippled through the group, and I felt my face burning with humiliation. The CEO smiled politely. Nothing wrong with being cautious. Different strengths and all that. But Sarah wasn't finished. It's beyond caution, she continued, completely oblivious to how uncomfortable I was feeling. Remember when we had that mouse in the apartment? Last month? She mimed, trembling, and everyone laughed harder. He stood on the kitchen table screaming until I got home to deal with it. I took a huge sip of my sparkling water, wishing I could simply disappear. That wasn't even how it happened. The mouse had startled me, and I jumped, but her version made me sound pathetic. And when we go camping, he won't sleep without an air mattress and insists on staying at sites with full bathroom facilities. Not exactly the rugged outdoorsman. She looked around at her colleagues. I swear, sometimes it's like having another child instead of a husband. But he's so good with computers. She patted my arm condescendingly. Jordan's expression changed. His eyes shifted to me with what looked almost like sympathy. Ryan cleared his throat, clearly sensing the conversation had gone too far. Actually, Ryan intervened, I was talking with Mike earlier about his architectural hobby. Those 3D designs he showed me were impressive. I hadn't mentioned any architectural hobby. I didn't even know Ryan knew my name until that moment. But I realized he was trying to rescue me, and I felt this strange connection with this man I barely knew. Sarah looked confused. Architecture? He doesn't... Perhaps you could send me some of those renderings? Ryan continued smoothly, cutting her off. I've been thinking about redesigning my lake house. The conversation moved on to vacation, properties, but the damage was done. I stood there feeling like my spirit had left my body. I was just an empty suit, nodding and smiling while inside I was screaming. I'd spent the last 8 years of my life supporting this woman, and she couldn't even grant me basic dignity in front of her colleagues. For what? So she could seem more impressive by comparison? The worst part was that I knew she'd expect me to laugh about it later. Oh, come on, I was just joking around. Don't be so sensitive. I excused myself to get some air, walking out to a large balcony where the cool night breeze did absolutely nothing to quell the burning humiliation inside me. I stood there, staring at the city lights below, suddenly seeing everything clearly. The woman I married had just used me as the punchline to boost her own image at work, and it wasn't even the first time. Years of small comments and subtle put-downs suddenly solidified into this painful pattern I'd been overlooking. I wasn't just the target of tonight's jokes. I was the designated loser in the narrative she'd constructed about our relationship. Gets old, doesn't it? I turned to see Ryan standing in the doorway, 2 bottles of sparkling water in hand. Offered one to me. Thought you might need this. I accepted with a nod, grateful for both the drink and the lack of pity in his expression. Thank you. And thanks for the imaginary architectural hobby. He leaned against the railing beside me. My ex-wife did the same thing at every company event. Made me the punchline to all her stories. Dave can't cook to save his life. Dave got lost driving to his mother's house. Dave couldn't figure out how to use the washing machine. He took a sip of his water. After our divorce, I found out she'd been seeing her personal trainer for 6 months. Best thing that ever happened to me. We stood in silence for a moment. Listen, he said finally. I don't know you well, but I recognize self-respect walking out of a room. That takes more courage than impressing a bunch of corporate drones who will forget about this party by Monday morning. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. For what it's worth, he continued, I've been in this business 20 years. The people who last aren't the ones who build themselves up by tearing others down. That strategy always backfires eventually. He swirled his water. And between us, Sarah's promotion isn't as solid as she thinks. Jordan's been asking questions about that Miller account. I looked at him, surprised. What do you mean? Ryan shook his head. Just that the numbers don't quite add up. Nothing I can discuss in detail. He trailed off, then changed the subject. So did you really study architecture? I nodded. Yeah, back in college. Had to drop out my senior year when my dad got sick. Medical bills wiped out the college fund. I was going to go back, but then Sarah's career took off and it just never seemed like the right time. Ryan nodded thoughtfully. Funny how we put our dreams on hold thinking it's temporary and then wake up one day to realize years have passed. Yeah, I agreed, feeling a lump in my throat. Funny. The balcony door opened and Sarah appeared. She was clearly irritated, but trying to conceal it with forced cheerfulness. There you are! Everyone's wondering where you went. Her eyes darted between me and Ryan, narrowing slightly. Is everything okay? Just getting some fresh air and having a fascinating conversation, Ryan replied before I could speak. Mike was telling me about his background in architectural design, really innovative perspectives. Another fictional interest, but this time it felt different, less like a rescue and more like potential. We should get back inside, she said. To me, her smile not reaching her eyes. Jordan's wife was asking about you. Actually, I said, finding my voice at last, I think I'm going to head home. Her smile vanished. What? You can't leave now. We've only been here 2 hours. I'm not feeling well. It wasn't entirely a lie. My stomach had been churning since her performance inside. Don't be ridiculous, she hissed, stepping closer and lowering her voice. This is important for my career. You can manage a few more. Hours. Stop being so sensitive. Ryan cleared his throat. Perhaps I should give you two a moment, he said, but made no move to leave. No need, I replied, setting down my water bottle. I've ordered an Uber. It should be here any minute. I hadn't, but I would as soon as I got downstairs. This is so typical, Sarah said, her whisper sharp enough to cut glass. The one time I need you to be supportive, you're running away because your feelings got hurt. I swear, men are so fragile sometimes. Something shifted inside me then, a quiet certainty replacing the confusion and hurt. I straightened my shoulders and looked directly at Sarah. I've supported you through 3 promotions, 2 career changes, and countless late nights at the office. I've attended every function, remembered every colleague's name, and never once complained about being left alone at holidays when you had to work. I put my own dreams on hold for 8 years while you built your career. I took a breath. But tonight you didn't ask for my support. You used me as a prop to make yourself look better. Her face flushed. You're overreacting. It was just harmless joking around. Was it? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, it felt like you were telling everyone that your biggest accomplishment was succeeding despite being married to such a pathetic loser. Her gaze faltered, dropping to the floor, and in that moment I saw something I hadn't been looking for. Insecurity disguised as confidence, fear masked as ambition. I'm going home, I repeated, gentler this time. We can talk tomorrow. As I turned to leave, Ryan extended his hand. Good meeting you properly, Mike. Hope you feel better soon. I shook his hand, surprised by the firm grip and the business card he smoothly passed to me. Call me if you'd like to grab coffee sometime, he said. I mean it about those designs. The apartment was quiet when I returned. I shed my suit, the expensive costume I'd worn to fit into her world, and stood in the shower until the hot water ran cold, letting it wash away the evening's humiliation. Sleep didn't come easily. I lay awake, replaying years of subtle slights. The way she'd interrupt me when I talked about things I was interested in, how she'd roll her eyes when I suggested vacation ideas, the constant little improvements she wanted to make to my appearance, my speech, my hobbies. Like the time I'd spent months building a custom gaming PC, and when I finally got it running perfectly, she'd said, "That's nice, honey. Maybe now you can focus on something productive." Or when I'd excitedly shown her a sketch I'd drawn of our dream house, and she'd replied, "It's cute that you still think about that stuff." Morning brought clarity instead of reconciliation. Sarah hadn't come home. A text message at 6 a.m. told me she'd stayed at Jen's place because she didn't want to continue the argument while emotional. Translation, she was avoiding the consequences of her actions. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, and spent the day in this strange limbo between anger and possibility. I dug out my old architectural sketches from college, the ones Sarah had deemed not matching our aesthetic. and spread them across the dining table. They weren't half bad, especially the urban renewal project that had won me departmental recognition. By afternoon, I found myself staring at the business card Ryan had slipped me. After hesitating for an hour, I finally sent a text. "This is Mike from last night, taking you up on that coffee offer if it still stands." His response came quickly. "Good to hear from you, 3 p.m. at Steel Bean downtown." The coffee shop was upscale, but not pretentious. Ryan was already seated in a corner booth when I arrived, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Though I should probably confess, I've never shown you any architectural designs." He laughed. "I figured as much, but I wasn't entirely making it up. Sarah mentioned once that you studied architecture in college, said it was cute that you thought you could make it in that field." That stung. I'd never told her it was cute when she failed at her first 2 marketing jobs. "Yeah, well, it was more than cute to me," I said, pulling out my phone and showing him some photos I'd taken of my old college projects before I left the apartment. I was on track for internships at some decent firms before life happened. Ryan scrolled through the images, his eyebrows raising slightly. "These are actually good, really good. The spatial awareness, the integration with the surrounding environment. You had a genuine talent." The conversation flowed with surprising ease. He wasn't just being polite or feeling sorry for me, he was genuinely interested in who I was. As we talked, I found myself sharing things I'd kept buried. My abandoned passion for architectural design, the small business plan I'd shelved when Sarah's career took priority, my growing sense of having lost myself in the shadow of her ambition. "So all this time, you've just been putting your dreams aside while supporting hers?" Ryan asked. "I guess I thought that's what marriage was," I admitted. "Compromise, sacrifice. I figured my turn would come eventually." "Compromise should go both ways," Ryan pointed out. "When was the last time she sacrificed something for your dreams?" I couldn't answer that because the truth was, she never had. "Why did you really ask me here?" I finally questioned after a second coffee. "Corporate loyalty would suggest you should be taking her side." He considered this, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the table. "Corporate loyalty is overrated. Human decency isn't. What I saw last night wasn't someone building up a team. It was someone stepping on another person to appear taller." He paused. "Plus, I recognized something in you that reminded me of myself 15 years ago. Sometimes people need a nudge to remember who they are." Before we parted, he made an unexpected proposition. "My team's working on a new downtown development project, a mixed-use building with residential and commercial space. Given your background in architecture, would you be interested in reviewing some of the preliminary designs? Fresh eyes can spot things we've missed, and it might be therapeutic." I was stunned. I don't have any professional qualifications. My design experience is theoretical at best. Sometimes theoretical is exactly what we need. No pressure, just take a look and give me your honest thoughts. He slid a thumb drive across the table. "Use a new email address to send feedback. This is under the radar. I don't need Sarah knowing I'm consulting with her husband." That evening, after Sarah returned with a carefully rehearsed apology that included phrases like "work stress" and "didn't mean to embarrass you," but never actually acknowledged what she'd done, I sat down at my long-neglected desk and plugged in the drive. The designs were ambitious, a blend of modern and historical elements that would transform a neglected corner of downtown. I lost myself for hours, examining renderings, making notes, sketching alternatives. For the first time in years, I felt my mind fully engaged, neurons firing with creative energy that had too long been dormant. I barely noticed when Sarah came in, hovering uncertainly at the threshold of our home office. "What are you working on so intently?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. I didn't look up. "Just a project." She moved closer, trying to see the screen. "Work project? Since when does AmITheA support need architectural renderings?" I closed the laptop, feeling a strange new boundary forming between us. "It's personal." Her face registered confusion, then concern. "Personal? What does that mean?" Her eyes narrowed. "Are you talking to someone else?" The implication was clear. In her mind, The only personal project I could have would be an affair. She couldn't even conceive of me having independent interests or goals. "I'm exploring some possibilities," I said vaguely, enjoying for once being the one with information she wanted. She hovered for another minute, clearly expecting me to elaborate, but I stayed silent. Finally, she retreated, and I realized something had fundamentally shifted. The apartment felt different, not because she had returned, but because I was no longer the same person who had left for the party 2 nights ago. I reopened the laptop and began drafting an email to Ryan, signing it with my name followed by architectural consultant. The title was aspirational rather than factual, but for the first time in years, the gap between the two didn't seem unbridgeable. 2 weeks passed in a strange new domestic rhythm. Sarah walked on eggshells around me, overcompensating with forced cheerfulness and sudden interest in my day. I remained polite but distant, spending evenings working on the development project, rather than watching mindless television beside her. The email I'd sent to Ryan had led to a flurry of exchanges, my suggestions sparking genuine interest from the design team. What began as a courtesy review had evolved into meaningful consultation, with several of my ideas incorporated into the revised plans. "They're implementing your courtyard concept," he texted one morning. "The team wants to meet the mystery consultant. 1 p.m. tomorrow." I stared at the message, equal parts thrilled and terrified. This was no longer just a therapeutic distraction, it was becoming real. "I'm not qualified for an actual meeting," I replied. His response came immediately. "Neither were half the successful people I know when they started." 1 p.m. at the Y. Office, business casual, I'll meet you in the lobby. That evening, I casually mentioned to Sarah that I had lunch plans downtown the next day. "Oh, with whom?" She tried to sound merely curious, but I caught the sharp edge of suspicion. "A potential client," I answered, not quite lying but not elaborating that her boss was my contact. "A client for what?" she asked, setting down her fork. I looked up from my plate. "I'm exploring some consulting opportunities in architectural design." Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Since when are you interested in architecture? And what kind of consulting? You don't have certifications." "I've always been interested in architecture," I said quietly. "We talked about it when we first met. I showed you my sketches." "That was a hobby," she dismissed. "You can't just suddenly decide to call yourself a consultant." "Actually, you can," I replied, "especially when people value your input." I closed my laptop and stood up. I need to prepare for tomorrow. I could feel her staring at my back. As I walked away, trying to process this new version of her husband, one who had interests and ambitions beyond supporting her career. The next morning, I dressed in my best business casual outfit, not the suit she'd picked out for me, but clothes I actually felt comfortable in. As I was about to leave, Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Who exactly are you meeting with?" she demanded, no longer hiding her suspicion. "A development team interested in my design perspective," I replied, grabbing my portfolio, the one I'd spent all night putting together, complete with my old college work and new ideas for the downtown project. "This doesn't make any sense," she insisted. "You work in IT. You've always worked in IT." "I worked in IT to support us while you built your career," I corrected her. "But that was never my passion. You knew that." As I headed for the door, she called after me. "Is this about the party? Are you trying to punish me?" I paused, my hand on the doorknob. "Not everything is about you, Sarah. This is about me reclaiming something I lost." The corporate headquarters was intimidating, 60 floors of gleaming glass and steel. I adjusted my blazer in the lobby, questioning my sanity for agreeing to this meeting. What did I think I was doing? Playing at being a professional in a world I didn't belong in. Right on time, Ryan appeared, greeting me with a firm handshake. "Ready to impress some people?" The meeting room contained 5 people, all dressed. In that understated, expensive way that signaled serious success. My hands felt clammy as I was introduced simply as the consultant who solved our courtyard challenge. "Walk us through your thinking," a gray-haired woman prompted, gesturing to the renderings projected on the wall. I took a deep breath and began explaining the issues I'd noticed with the original design, the shadowing problems at certain times of day, the wind tunnel effect the building orientation would create, the missed opportunity for green space that would increase property values and tenant satisfaction. As I spoke, my voice grew steadier. I fielded questions, sketched alternatives on the digital whiteboard, and found myself in a spirited debate about the merits of various materials. For 90 minutes, I forgot to be intimidated. I forgot I wasn't formally qualified. I just lost myself in the pure pleasure of creative problem solving. When the meeting concluded, the gray-haired woman, who turned out to be the firm's senior partner, approached me directly. "Your perspective is refreshing," she said. "Most consultants tell us what we want to hear. You told us what we needed to know." She handed me her card. "We have another project breaking ground in 3 months. Would you be interested in a more formal arrangement?" I felt dizzy with possibility. "I would need to think about it, of course. But don't think too long." She smiled knowingly. "Talent doesn't need credentials to be valuable." That evening, I was going through the meeting notes when Sarah returned from work earlier than usual. Something about her demeanor seemed off, a strange mix of anger and anxiety that raised immediate red flags. "How was your meeting?" she asked, her voice tight. "Productive," I replied cautiously. "Why?" "Imagine my surprise," she said, dropping her bag on the counter with a thud, "when I was called into Jordan's office today to explain why my husband is suddenly consulting on the downtown project with my supervisor." And there it was, the moment of truth. "I didn't realize I needed your permission to pursue professional opportunities," I said quietly. "Don't play dumb, Mike. You deliberately kept this from me. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? Like I can't keep my own husband in line. Keep me in line?" Those words hit me like a slap. "Is that how you see our marriage? That I'm someone you need to keep in line?" "You know what I mean," she backpedaled. "It just looks weird. People are talking about what? That your husband might have talent and value outside of being your supportive spouse? That's not fair," she protested. "I've always supported your interests." "My interests?" I repeated. "Not my career, not my ambitions, my cute little hobbies that you could pat me on the head for." She threw up her hands. "What do you want from me?" I said I was sorry about the party. I had too much sparkling wine. I was trying to impress Jordan. I went too far. "What more do you want?" "I want you to understand that this isn't about the party," I explained. "The party just showed me clearly what I'd been ignoring. We built a relationship where your dreams were the priority and mine were the sacrifice. I accepted that arrangement for so long that I almost forgot I had dreams of my own." She reached for my hand, but I stepped back, needing physical distance to maintain emotional clarity. "What exactly are you doing with this project?" she asked, her voice smaller now. "Consulting on architectural elements of a downtown development, and they've asked me to consider a formal arrangement for future projects." Her eyes widened. "You're not qualified. You never finished your degree. Apparently, talent and insight matter more than credentials to some people." Her tone shifted, becoming accusatory again. "And Ryan arranged all this. Why would he do that?" I shrugged. Maybe he recognized something in me. Maybe he just wanted to help. Or maybe he saw how I was treated and decided I deserved better. She flinched as if I'd struck her. "So, this is about punishing me? Embarrassing me professionally as revenge?" "Not everything is about you," I said quietly. "This is about me rebuilding something I lost. It has nothing to do with revenge." Her anger resurfaced. "You've been lying to me for weeks while meeting with my boss. How am I supposed to interpret that?" "I didn't lie. I just didn't volunteer information you never asked for. When did you last ask about my day, my interests, my ambitions? Not what you needed from me or how I could support you, just who I am and what I want." She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, realization dawning in her eyes. The next few days were tense. Sarah oscillated between fake supportiveness and passive-aggressive comments about my sudden career change, but something bigger was brewing. I could feel it in the way she'd furiously text during dinner or take hushed phone calls in the bathroom. One morning, about a week after my meeting with the design team, I received an urgent text from Ryan. "We need to talk now." Not on the phone. We met at a quiet cafe, far from Sarah's office. Ryan looked grim. Sarah's trying to sabotage you, he said without preamble. She's filed a formal complaint with HR claiming I've engaged in inappropriate professional relationships by hiring her spouse without disclosure. My stomach dropped. Can she do that? Technically, there's no rule against hiring spouses of employees for consulting work, but she's spinning it as a conflict of interest and suggesting we only hired you to curry favor with her for the Miller account. That's ridiculous, I said, feeling betrayed all over again. She knows that's not true. Of course it's not true, but she's desperate. There's something else you should know. He hesitated. The Miller account numbers, the ones we've been questioning. Sarah's been manipulating the data to make her results look better. Nothing illegal, but definitely against company policy. Jordan was already planning to audit her work next month, and now she's trying to discredit you before that happens. I realized, make it look like I'm the one with professional ethics issues. Ryan nodded grimly. Exactly. What can I do? I asked. We need evidence that your hiring was based solely on merit. Your original email critiquing our design, did you send that from a personal account that Sarah doesn't have access to? I nodded. I created a new account like you suggested. Good. And your design suggestions predated any knowledge of the Miller account audit? I didn't even know about the Miller account issues until today, I confirmed. Ryan looked relieved. That helps. But there's another problem. Sarah's claiming you've been using insider information she brought home to gain an advantage with the project. I felt sick. She's the one who never talks about work at home except to brag. I knew nothing about this project until you showed me. I believe you, but we need to prove it. I thought for a moment. She has a personal journal she writes in every night, all her professional victories and strategies. If she's been manipulating data, it might be in there. Ryan frowned. I can't ask you to invade your wife's privacy. It's my apartment too, I said firmly. And if she's trying to destroy my one chance at rebuilding my career just to protect her lies, I think I have a right to defend myself. That night, while Sarah was at her emergency yoga session, which I now suspected was a strategy meeting with her allies at work, I found her journal hidden in her underwear drawer. I felt a twinge of guilt as I opened it, but that vanished as I began to read. It was all there. Her deliberate manipulation of the Miller account data, her strategy to keep Mike focused on supporting my career by discouragingly commenting on his architectural hobby, and most damning of all, entries from the past week, plotting to discredit Ryan before he could expose her falsehoods. Ryan thinks he's so clever using Mike against me, she'd written, but I'll make sure they both regret crossing me. I took photos of the relevant pages, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. This wasn't just about the party anymore. This was about years of calculated suppression of my dreams to keep me as her supportive sidekick. The next morning, I sent the photos to Ryan with a simple message. Do what you need to do. 2 days later, all hell broke loose. Sarah came home in tears, her face blotchy with rage and humiliation. You bastard, she screamed as soon as she saw me. You went through my private journal. You gave my personal writings to Ryan. Do you have any idea what you've done? I remained calm. I know exactly what I've done. I defended myself against your attempts to sabotage my career, just like you've been doing for years. They suspended me, she shrieked, pending a full investigation of the Miller account. My reputation is ruined. Your reputation? I laughed bitterly. You mean the reputation you built by lying about your results and stepping on others? That reputation? She collapsed onto the sofa, suddenly shifting tactics. Tears flowed as she looked up at me with those manipulative eyes I once found irresistible. Mike, please, she begged, you have to help me. Tell them you misunderstood. Tell them I never meant to hurt your career. You know how important this job is to me, to us. To you? I corrected. It was only ever important to you, and you were willing to destroy my one chance at reclaiming my passion to protect your lies. I can fix this, she pleaded. I'll tell everyone how proud I am of your architectural work. I'll support your career change completely. We can move past this. I sat down across from her, suddenly feeling nothing but pity. Sarah, do you even hear yourself? Even now, you're only offering to support me because you need something. That's not how partnerships work. What are you saying? She whispered, fear replacing manipulation in her eyes. I'm saying I'm done being your supporting character. I've accepted a formal consulting position with the downtown development. I start next week. And us? She asked, her voice small. There is no us anymore, I said gently. I've already packed my essentials. I'm staying with a friend until I find my own place. You can't just leave, she cried, suddenly desperate. We can work this out. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever. It takes. I shook my head. I've spent 8 years hoping you'd see me as an equal partner with my own dreams. It took you facing consequences for your actions to even offer that, and only because you need my help. That's not love, Sarah. That's just self-preservation. Her face hardened, the mask of vulnerability dropping away. Fine, leave, but don't. Think this is over. I still have friends at the company. They'll see through whatever lies Ryan fed them. They're not lies if they're backed by evidence, I reminded her. Your own words, Sarah, in your own handwriting. She stood up, her eyes blazing. You think this makes you some kind of man? Sneaking around behind my back, going through my private things? You're nothing without me. Nothing. Who do you think paid for most of this apartment? Who kept us afloat when your pathetic IT job had layoffs 3 years ago? I picked up my duffel bag, surprisingly calm in the face of her rage. I guess we'll find out who I am without you. That's what scares you the most, isn't it? The idea that I might actually succeed on my own. As I reached the door, she called after me, her voice suddenly small again. Mike, please, I love you. I paused, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and freedom. I think you love the idea of me, the supportive husband who never challenges your spotlight. But that person doesn't exist anymore. The door closed behind me with a soft click that somehow felt more final than any slam could have. It's been 6 months since I walked out of that apartment and my old life. The downtown project is nearly complete, with my courtyard design becoming one of the development's signature features. I've been hired as a full consultant on 2 additional projects, and I'm taking night classes to finally complete my architecture degree. I wish I could say the transition was smooth, but Sarah didn't go down without a fight. She tried to turn mutual friends against me with stories about how I'd abandoned her during a minor work issue. She even showed up at my new apartment once, alternating between tears and threats. But the strangest part came 3 months after our separation, when the company's investigation was complete. Sarah was fired for data manipulation, and on her way out, she apparently had a complete meltdown in the lobby, according to Ryan, who witnessed the whole thing. She screamed that everyone would be sorry when she revealed the truth about the conspiracy against her. 2 days later, I received a desperate email from her. Mike, I need your help. They've destroyed my reputation in the industry. No one will hire me. I know I made mistakes, but I didn't deserve this. You know how hard I worked. Please, if you talk to Ryan, tell him I've learned my lesson. Tell them I deserve a second chance. I have nothing without this career. Please. I didn't respond. After 8 years of putting her needs first, I was finally focusing on my own path. Last week, I heard from a mutual friend that Sarah had to move back to her parents' house in Ohio. Her LinkedIn now lists her as a marketing consultant, which usually means unemployed. Meanwhile, the senior partner at Ryan's firm has offered to sponsor me for an accelerated architecture program that would complete my credentials within a year. Sometimes I feel guilty about how things ended. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted respect and the chance to pursue my own dreams. But then I remember all those years of subtle put-downs, the party humiliation, and her willingness to destroy my opportunity just to save herself. The guilt fades pretty quickly after that. The greatest revenge wasn't exposing her lies or watching her career implode. It was reclaiming my own potential, the part of myself I'd almost forgotten existed. And no matter what happens in my new career, I'll never again make myself small to make someone else feel grand. If you're listening to this and recognize yourself in my story, if you've been putting your dreams on hold while supporting someone who doesn't support you back, know that it's never too late to rediscover who you were meant to be. Sometimes, the hard part isn't fighting against others' perceptions of you. It's fighting against the limited version of yourself you've come to accept.